Okay, for this video, we'll be going through separation techniques, the checkpoint quiz. So make sure you have tried this quiz before you look at the answers. Now, when copper 2 sulfate is dissolved in water, so we actually do not know what is copper 2 sulfate, but it's okay. We know that it is dissolved in water, a blue solution is formed. Okay, so it's not a suspension but a solution. So how can we obtain pure water from the blue solution? So because this is being dissolved in water, so that makes the copper 2 sulfate the solute, okay, and the water is then the solvent. So in that case, you have to identify how can we get the pure water. So answer is simple distillation, right? Because simple distillation is to obtain the liquid or the solvent from the solution. Now, what about the other options? So please also copy down, right? For magnetic attraction is very straightforward. It's versus magnetic and non-magnetic substances. So the magnetic substances that are in our syllabus will be iron, cobalt, nickel, and steel. Okay. So next option, evaporation to dryness. This is for getting the copper 2 sulfate, which is actually our solute. We let the solvent, which is the water, to evaporate, leaving behind the copper 2 sulfate, which will then become a crystal. Okay. Next is filtration. Filtration definitely no, because it's to separate insoluble solid and liquid mixture. But in the question, they tell us that it dissolves to form a solution. Okay, question 2, which substance is a mixture? Okay, so glucose, it is actually a compound because it's C6H12O6. I think I said this many times in class. If it has a chemical formula, then it must be a compound. Now, magnesium is actually element, oxygen is the element. Now, steel is actually a mixture of iron and carbon, so answer is D. Okay, question 3, it shows the chromatogram of a few dyes and an unknown dye. So, the question asks, which of the following dyes can be found in the unknown dye? So, during exam, you need a ruler, you put it across, you draw, right? So, you find that there is actually dye B inside. Is there dye C? No, because if you look at dye C, right, only these two corresponds to the signature in the unknown dye, but this dye is not found inside. Okay, so it will only be dye B. We need a full match. Okay, so dye B, yes, it is found in the unknown dye, but not dye C. Okay, question 4 is a distillation setup, right? So they most probably will not ask you to draw, but they will ask you to label. They will also ask you to state the function. Okay, so this is not fill in. This is actually the distilling flask. Okay, it looks like a round bottom, and sometimes they use a flat bottom, but they actually have a spout here, so we have to call it a distilling flask. Okay, so the other one that is over here will be the boiling chips. What is the function of the boiling chip? Is to make the boiling smoother. Okay, so the condenser is to condense vapor, the hot vapor, into liquid. Okay, so actually it is being asked over here. Okay, what's the thermometer? Because the vapor, it may, so then we have to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of distillation? Basically, it is to separate different liquid with different boiling points. Okay, with different boiling points. Therefore, the thermometer is used to check that at let's say at a certain temperature, like for water, if it boils at 100 degrees, and when my thermometer reads 100 degrees, then I know that it is actually the water vapor that is being produced over here. Then I'll know that what I'll be collecting, and this is what we call the distillate, the distillate will then be the pure water. Okay, so the thermometer is to check for the temperature. Okay, so what's this separation technique? Is simple distillation. And what's the purpose of the boiling chip? To ensure smooth boiling. Okay, last question. A mixture of sand, sodium chloride, and water is accidentally mixed. And you know that sodium chloride can dissolve in water. So this will form a solution, whereby the water is the solvent and the sodium chloride is the solute. Okay, however, because sand is not soluble, so it will remain, and this whole thing, these three things together will actually form a suspension. Okay, will form a suspension. So maybe all these are the sand, but the part that light can pass through is actually the salt solution. Okay, so list the separation techniques required in the correct order to obtain solid sodium chloride. What do we want? We want to get sodium chloride. So the first step is filtration. Why are we doing filtration? So that be prepared to be able to draw filtration setup. So we have filter funnel, we have filter paper, right? We have a conical flask just for it to rest on it. So what will be left behind is the filtrate. And these filtrate are for those things that cannot dissolve, right? And sorry, it's not filtrate. It is the residue. The residue are for those things that cannot dissolve, and in this case, it will be our sand. So what will be coming out from here is actually the filtrate. Okay, the liquid part, the filtrate, and this filtrate is actually our salt solution. Okay, however, the question asks us to obtain sodium chloride, which is our salt. So we actually have to use evaporation to dryness. That means we get the water to evaporate out, okay, leaving behind the salt to form as crystals. Okay.